Club World Cup 2025 in the United States was meant to be a celebration of football on American soil. For FIFA, it was also a crucial rehearsal, a chance to stress-test stadiums, logistics, and fan experience ahead of the far bigger World Cup 2026. On paper, the U.S. has the scale, infrastructure, and financial muscle to host the world. But the past summer raised hard questions about whether America can deliver more than just size. Reports showed fluctuating attendance, weather disruptions, and concerns about how welcoming the environment felt for international fans. Each of these moments became less about sport and more about optics, the kind that shape how the world views a host nation. As Trump Tariffs 2025 collide with World Cup 2026 USA logistics, fans and partners ask a deeper question. Will America shine under the global spotlight or stumble at the very moment it hoped to lead? That question frames everything that follows. Demand and optics, empty seats, and public perception. The Club World Cup was designed to showcase football's global reach and America's ability to host the world. Yet, the numbers told a different story. According to reports from AP and ESPN, more than 1 million seats went unsold during the group stage of the tournament. This was not just a minor detail. It meant that entire sections of some of the largest venues stood empty. At stadiums like MetLife in New Jersey and the Rose Bowl in California, several matches drew less than half of available capacity. Instead of vibrant atmospheres, fans watching on television often saw swathes of unused seats in venues built for spectacle. The optics mattered as much as the action on the pitch. A global audience expects sold-out stadiums when the world's best clubs compete, especially in a country seeking to prove itself as a football destination. And the challenges were not limited to the group stage. At the final, the spotlight turned away from the players when the president appeared on stage to boos that echoed through the stadium. What should have been a celebration of the winning team instead became a political headline, overshadowing the trophy moment. Together, these images, empty seats, and mixed reactions at the final sent a message louder than any press release. Hosting a global sports event is not only about scheduling matches. It is about projecting confidence, inclusiveness, and national readiness to the entire world. In that sense, demand and optics are not small details. They are the first test of whether America can truly pass the World Cup stage in 2026. Climate and scheduling. Heat, delays, and player welfare. The summer of 2025 gave players, fans, and organizers a preview of what extreme weather can mean for a global tournament. Reuters and FIFPro both highlighted how scorching heat and high humidity created unsafe conditions across several match days. In some venues, afternoon kickoffs were played in temperatures that pushed athletes to their limits. Medical staff were seen rushing to provide cooling towels, hydration breaks, and even oxygen support in certain cases. A few matches were delayed due to storms and excessive heat indexes, underscoring how vulnerable outdoor events are to climate stress. The message was clear. Footballers cannot deliver their best when they are fighting the weather as much as the opponent. This was not just a health issue, but also a question of fairness and integrity in competition. Looking ahead to the World Cup 2026 USA, scheduling will be one of the most sensitive decisions. Cities like Houston, Dallas, and Miami are known for brutal summer conditions, with wet bulb temperatures that can make afternoon play dangerous. Organizers will face pressure to move matches into cooler evening slots, extend halftime breaks, and expand hydration protocols. Fans, too, will expect a safe environment where the experience is not overshadowed by discomfort or health risks. Climate has become a central factor in global sports planning. If the U.S. wants to pass its next test on the world stage, it must prove it can manage heat, storms, and scheduling with foresight and care. Turf and operations, old lessons, new stakes. One of the clearest lessons from recent tournaments has nothing to do with tactics or referees. It comes down to the grass under the players' feet. During Copa America 2024, temporary turf installations drew sharp criticism from athletes and coaches. Players complained about uneven bounces, seams between panels, and surfaces that felt unsafe for high-intensity matches. That criticism carried into the Club World Cup 2025, where improvements were visible in some venues, but far from consistent across the board. Certain stadiums managed to install higher-quality hybrid grass that earned praise, while others struggled with patches, slipperiness, or inconsistent roll. For FIFA, this inconsistency is more than an operational detail. It is a question of credibility, because every poor bounce or awkward slip is broadcast worldwide. Fans watching in Europe, South America, or Asia judge not just the match, but also the host country's standards. By 2026, every U.S. host city will need to meet the same professional benchmark, no matter the cost or effort. Turf quality has become a symbolic test, a measure of whether America can take global football seriously at its highest level. Failing that test risks reinforcing the narrative that the U.S. is still learning how to host the world's game. Borders and bureaucracy, visa bottlenecks. Hosting a global tournament means welcoming fans from every corner of the world. But in 2025, the U.S. visa system became a major red flag. According to official data, wait times for first-time tourist visas in Colombia reached nearly 398 days. In India, depending on the city, applicants faced anywhere from 6 months to over a year before securing an appointment. For many football fans, that kind of backlog makes planning a once-in-a-lifetime trip nearly impossible. Airlines, hotels, and ticket sellers can prepare their systems months in advance. Yet if a fan cannot even get approval to enter the country, the entire chain collapses before it starts. The U.S. government has promised to fix the issue by expanding staffing, adding double shifts, and even using artificial intelligence to speed up processing. However, progress has been slow, and long delays remain across multiple regions. This creates a dangerous disconnect. FIFA can sell the world on coming to America, but bureaucratic walls prevent many from ever arriving. For international audiences, the message matters. If the U.S. cannot guarantee timely access for fans, families, and media, the phrase World Cup begins to lose meaning. A clogged visa funnel is more than a paperwork problem. It is a credibility test, and if it is not solved quickly, it threatens to shrink the very global stage the U.S. is trying to command in 2026. Compliance and trust, human rights plans. Beyond stadiums and ticket sales, global tournaments are judged on how they treat people. For the 2026 World Cup, FIFA has required all 16 U.S. host cities to submit comprehensive human rights plans. These plans cover issues such as labor standards for stadium workers, protections against human trafficking, the treatment of homeless populations, and safeguards against discrimination. On paper, the requirements look ambitious and forward-thinking, but in practice, deadlines are already slipping. Dallas, one of the major host cities, has pushed its submission timeline back to the end of 2025, leaving only months before kickoff. Critics warn that other cities may also struggle to produce meaningful strategies on time. Advocacy groups argue that too many of these plans risk being drafted for appearances only, with limited enforcement or follow-through once the spotlight fades. This creates a dangerous double standard. If the U.S. promotes human rights commitments but fails to deliver visible results, The effort could backfire as empty public relations. Comparisons will inevitably be drawn to previous host nations, and America could find itself on the defensive. The risk is not just reputational, but symbolic. A tournament meant to celebrate inclusiveness and global unity could instead highlight gaps in credibility and trust. To succeed, the U.S. will need to prove that its human rights framework is more than words on paper. It must be lived out in practice, or the narrative may turn sharply against it on the world stage. Security and scale. The $625 million test. One of the most concrete signs of preparation for 2026 came not from FIFA, but from Washington. Congress approved $625 million in federal reimbursements to help host cities cover the enormous costs of security. This funding is meant to offset overtime for police, specialized equipment, and coordination across dozens of local agencies. On the surface, the allocation demonstrates America's unmatched capacity to mobilize resources on a national scale. Few countries can commit that level of funding across multiple cities at once, but the size of the investment also reveals the complexity of the task. Security for a World Cup involves protecting stadiums, training sites, fan zones, airports, and transportation hubs, all while keeping daily life moving in each city. It requires seamless coordination between federal agencies, state governments, and local police forces. The challenge is that even with billions of dollars and thousands of personnel, the system remains fragile. A single breakdown, whether it is a cyber attack, a crowd control failure, or a lapse at a checkpoint, could dominate global headlines and overshadow months of careful planning. The $625 million test is not just about paying for protection. It is about proving that the U.S. can manage scale, complexity, and public confidence all at once. And in a tournament where optics matter, one incident is all it takes to erode trust on the global stage. Economic backdrop, tourism spending, and tariff pressure. Behind the stadium lights and global headlines, the economic backdrop tells its own story. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, international visitors are expected to spend about 7% less in the U.S. during 2025, a decline of roughly $12.5 billion. Analysts point to a strong dollar, rising political tensions, and procedural hurdles as key reasons for this downturn. For a country preparing to host millions of fans in 2026, those numbers matter. At the same time, trade policy is shaping costs in ways that filter down to everyday consumers. The Congressional Budget Office has projected that current tariff levels could add 0.4 percentage points to U.S. inflation in 2025 to 2026. Reports from Bloomberg and the Financial Times show that higher costs are already visible in imported goods ranging from travel luggage to sports apparel. Fans feel the impact in very specific ways. A round-trip ticket from Asia to the U.S. has risen as airlines pass along both fuel increases and tariff-related expenses. Official team jerseys manufactured in Asia now retail 10 to 15% higher than they did just 2 years ago. For middle-class supporters already budgeting for visas, hotels, and match tickets, these extra costs may push the trip out of reach. The concern is not abstract. It directly affects who shows up in American stadiums. And it raises a sharper question. When Trump tariffs 2025 lift the cost of travel gear and even team jerseys, how many middle-class fans simply stay home? This is where economics and optics meet, and where America's global stage may quietly shrink before the first whistle blows. Calendar wars. Can the U.S. still own the summer? The global football calendar is becoming more crowded by the year. FIFA is already considering holding the expanded Club World Cup every 2 years, starting in 2029, a move that would further squeeze an already overloaded schedule. For players, that means shorter recovery times and greater risk of fatigue. For organizers, it means competing with other tournaments, domestic leagues, and even the Olympics for global attention. The United States has long pitched itself as the ideal summer host. With modern stadiums, large markets, and the ability to stage multiple events simultaneously. But the Club World Cup showed how fragile that claim can be. Climate is a real constraint, with heat waves making afternoon matches unsafe and uncomfortable. Scheduling congestion only compounds the risk, forcing organizers to choose between player welfare and primetime TV slots. If America cannot optimize its calendar and climate strategy, the global spotlight may not wait. Other countries with cooler conditions, streamlined visa access, and simpler logistics could step in and claim the mantle of summer's premier stage. Owning the summer is no longer guaranteed. It will be a battle of preparation, adaptability, and credibility, and the U.S. cannot afford to fall behind. The lessons from 2025 are clear, but they also point to solutions. First, the U.S. can establish visa fast lanes for ticket holders, ensuring that international fans are not locked out by paperwork. Second, match scheduling must respect the climate. Evening kickoffs and extended halftimes can protect both players and supporters from dangerous summer heat. Third, turf quality needs to be non-negotiable. A transparent turf audit system will reassure players, media, and global audiences that every venue meets the highest standard. Fourth, communication has to be unified. FIFA, federal agencies, and local host cities must speak with one voice, reducing confusion and building trust. Finally, ticket pricing must be clear and fair, giving fans confidence that they are valued participants rather than exploited customers. Together, these steps form a playbook for restoring confidence before the world arrives in 2026. And the message is simple. Execution matters as much as ambition. If Trump Tariffs 2025 remain part of the story, America must prove that even higher costs are worth the journey, because the spotlight can fade as quickly as the lights in an empty stadium. For viewers, this is the moment to watch closely. Will the U.S. deliver on its promises, or repeat the stumbles of 2025? Stay tuned, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth analysis on global politics, economics, and the road to 2026.